Africa is home to some of the world's richest natural resources. Sitting on a treasure trove of untapped potential, Africa has over 30% of the world's mineral reserves. No wonder Africa has been seen as the future of global supply chains.
But it's not just about the minerals. Africa's fertile land makes it the perfect place to cultivate a variety of crops, everything from cocoa, coffee and tea to cassava, maize and legumes. It's a market that feeds billions and offers huge growth potential for investors looking at the future of food security and agribusiness. By the way, my name is Hawa and I represent the western part of Africa.
And that's just the start. Africa's energy sector is rapidly evolving with abundant natural resources like solar, wind, and hydropower. The continent is positioned to become a global leader in renewable energy. Countries like South Africa, Egypt, and Kenya are already making significant strides towards energy independence and sustainability.
Don't even get me started about what makes Africa stand out. Of course, it is people, the young, dynamic and entrepreneurial spirit that is fueling the rise of technology and innovation. We are seeing incredible growth in sectors like fintech, e-commerce and mobile technology. The continent's digital transformation is creating new opportunities for businesses and investors, and the pace is only accelerating.
Discussing trends, challenges, and opportunities available in Africa is what we discuss on Invest Africa Podcast.
Invest Africa Podcast.
You are Africans. We are Africans. Louder. We are Africans. Louder. We are Africans. Come on, Africans. Yeah. We are Africans. I can't hear you. We are Africans. Louder. We are Africans. Come on, Africans.
So whether you are a seasoned investor or someone looking to explore the emerging markets, the Invest Africa podcast is here to help you navigate this exciting landscape. Join us as we take you on a journey through Africa's abundant resources, thriving industries, and the game-changing investments that are shaping the future of the continent.
The Invest Africa Podcast, shaping Africa's investment landscape. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Invest Africa Group podcast, where we dive deep into the most pressing issues and trends shaping the investment landscape in Africa. I'm your host, Mubarak Abimbola, and of course I have Awa Adigbite. Awa, how are you today?
Hi, guys. Welcome to another interesting episode of the Invest Africa Group podcast. I'm feeling good today. How are you, Mubarak? Good to have you once again.
Well, I'm good too. On the last episode, we discussed technology and innovation in Africa and how it has been a catalyst for economic growth. We talked about how the African tech ecosystem has evolved and how sectors like fintech, agri-tech, health tech, and ed tech have not just revolutionized industries, but also drive economic transformation of the continent. We explained how fintech has not only provided solutions for the underserved population, but also bridged gaps in traditional banking. With more than 60% of Africa's population being unbanked, we mentioned how mobile money platforms have become game changer, offering services like peer-to-peer transfers where you can send money directly from Canada and I can get to receive it here in Nigeria or in Ghana instantly. We also talked about savings, how mobile money apps have now made it easier for you to save as you spend. Also, we also talked about loans. I remember that while mentioning the fact that she has seen how loan apps have been able to save her friends and instantly how they were able to come true for them. And also even fintech has been a great thing in the whole continent, all thanks to technology. We didn't only talk about the evolution of technology in Africa. We started from where it all started, where it all began. Historically, it is written or it is known that the early invention started here in Africa. So, it was really a great insight talking about some of these sectors.
Absolutely, Mbak. Thank you for giving us a quick recap. But before I add anything to what you've said, I'd like to remind our listeners to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this podcast across all platforms. Also, we would like to hear from you. Kindly drop your comments on what you've heard us talk about so far, and other things that you might want us to talk about. And while we're at it, Mubarak, let's also remember to remind you guys to mark your calendars for the end of the year investment dinner coming up on the 11th of December. This is an incredible opportunity for you to network, to learn, and to grow with Africa's finest minds. Don't forget, tickets are available on Eventbrite. Go to eventbrite.com to get your tickets. Don't miss out on this.
Yes. I mean, the dinner is one of the things I look forward to this year because meeting with like minds, getting to network, getting to see people. I mean, it's one thing you don't want to miss. So if you're listening right now, just go to Eventbrite and search for Invest Africa Group dinner. You can be rest assured that it's definitely going to worth your time. Yes, while we were talking about the recap of last episode, I talked about fintech. I mean, another sector that I feel that really got me pumped on the last episode is the evolution that has happened in the education sector. I mean, technology has helped Africa. We all know Africa is a continent where access to quality education is a little bit scarce. But with the digital solutions profiled by EdTech, Africa's young demographic are being empowered with skills that are essential for the future. You now see Andela, you see U-Lessons, you see people learning on Udemy, Coursera, even YouTube. I mean, education tech has also improved so well. Also, platforms like U-Lessons are also bringing affordable digital education to the masses. And it has been a great ride in that sector ever since the introduction of education technology.
Yes, that is very true. EdTech is actually a very interesting sector because of the growing rate of the youth population across Africa. So investment in education technology keeps getting bigger and better, and it keeps getting relevant regardless of the niche. And we're talking about the revolution of SMS education in Kenya, and how it is bringing access to education to the marginalized communities where there is limited access to internet and the like. So there are so many innovations coming in EdTech, and we also spoke about how it has actually helped the next generation. You see people from Africa earning in foreign currencies just from learning little skills. You mentioned Andela, there's ALX, there are so many education platforms where you can learn and even get certificates that would actually help you in the workforce. And it's really amazing to see that nowadays, just from the comfort of your home, you can learn a viable skill and you can actually make money from it. I mean, it's changing the game for youths in Africa generally.
So whether you didn't get to listen initially, you didn't get to listen to the last episode, or probably currently lost track of the conversation, you know what to do. Go and check out the previous episode on every streaming platform. You can be rest assured that it was a conversation that was filled with absolute knowledge. And of course, you can trust us to always keep you up to date on many of these things.
Alright, today we are switching gears, and we are talking about something that affects not just Africa but the entire planet. We're talking about sustainable investment. Drum rolls, please. Mubarak, what do you think about sustainable investment? I know we talked about this episode a couple of days ago, and you said you're so much pumped to talk about this, and I've been looking forward to us having this talk. So what exactly is sustainable investment? I mean, just putting it for the layman.
Well, sustainable investment. Well, for many of us who have been conversant with the news, you would notice that one particular topic has been like the core of any governmental and non-governmental conversation. I mean, climate change, social equity, sustainability have all become global priority. And Africa, being at the forefront of this transition, we need to talk about many of these things. I mean, you would realize that for there to be a meaningful return on any investment, you have to look at the sustainability of that investment. And what are the factors that makes investment sustainable? There are three factors that are really so concerned about any investment. You have to look at the environment, you have to look at the social part of your investment, and you also have to look at the governmental influence of any investment. And this this is what makes a sustainable investment, and this is what we are going to discuss on this particular episode.
Yes, guys, we are diving into the rise of ESG, like Mubarak has mentioned, ESG investment, and that's environmental, social, and governance investment, and how these investments are actually shaping Africa's future. So, what does this mean for us? Think renewable energy, think social impact initiatives, think sustainable agriculture, think investments that don't just make money, but that also makes a difference both environmentally, socially, and ethically. And why is this important to us? Especially in Africa. Africa is a land of opportunities, but with these opportunities there come challenges, and like Mubarak has mentioned, our challenges are quite specific to climate change, food insecurity, social injustice, and social inequality, to name a few. So ESG is not just ESG investment is not just a buzzword. It's a game-changing approach to tackling these issues that actually affect economic growth in Africa.
Like you rightly said, ESG is not a buzzword. A lot of people would have been asking, why is ESG on the lips of so many people right now, and what makes this topic so important, guys? Let me quickly explain. I mean, we have been blessed with just one word, this planet that we have. We only have one home. We have one chance. We have no plan B, because at least for now, we can't relocate to another planet. So the only planet we have right here is planet Earth. We can't simply press control or delete the damage we've done to the planet, but we can reboot our corporate thinking and refresh our attitude towards the graceful need by imagining a sustainable tomorrow. I mean, all these things begins with environmental, social, and governance model that would deliver a sustainable business advantage and measurable value. Now, earlier I asked you, for those that have been monitoring, I said you must have noticed that for the past 2 decades, sustainability has emerged as top priority for business, for government, for investors around the world. What this means is that sustainability refers to meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And it's not just about the environment, it's also about the social impact and also governance too. So the question will be, what is ESG investing?
Yes, we'll be giving answers to that question, what is ESG investment, in today's episode. Also, we'll be looking at the growing impact of renewable energy projects in Africa, the role of social impact investment in transforming communities. We'll also be looking at why sustainable agriculture is the key to feeding Africa's booming population. And of course, we'll be sharing some amazing stories that proves that ESG isn't just good for the environment, it's also good for business as well. And don't go anywhere, because we've got exclusive details about the end of year investment dinner happening on December 11th. Trust me, you don't want to miss this.
ESG investing is a strategy that evaluates investment based on 3 key factors: environmental, social, and governance criteria. Investors across the world uses these factors to assess the long-term value of their investment, making sure that they are not only profitable but also responsible. But why the sudden rise in ESG investing? The climate crisis is a big part of it. We have seen the devastating effect of climate change, from wildfires in California to flooding in Bayelsa, Nigeria, and to drought in Africa, and also to hurricanes in the Caribbean. Climate crisis has become an inevitable topic of discourse in Africa. On the social side, movements like Black Lives Matter, #End Bad Governance protest in Nigeria, they've all drawn attention to systemic inequalities. And on governance, companies are being held accountable for issues like executive pay, bureaucratic flaws, corruption, and business ethics. Today, ESG investing is no longer a niche trend. It has become mainstream, with trillions of dollars now flowing into ESG compliant investment. And this is why you need to listen to this episode, because a lot of investors, whether you have a business of your own or you are thinking of starting a business, you're thinking of a startup, you need to know some certain factors that would attract investors into your business. ESG investors now, they now pump about trillions of dollars into that particular sector because into businesses that are compliant of ESG. I mean, the shift or the change in shift. I mean, the way companies do business now have changed, and investors make decisions basically on three of these factors. Now, let's bring the conversation closer to home, specifically here in Africa, with a population expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050. Africa represents a significant opportunity for ESG investing, but it also faces unique challenges from energy, poverty, and agricultural instability to governance issues and social inequality. The need for sustainable development in Africa is quite urgent. Over the past few years, we've seen a remarkable shift in how African countries are approaching sustainability. Governments are now approaching green policies. I mean, so many international organizations now have their offices in Nigeria talking about greenhouse, many of them talking about green farming. So many businesses are now adopting the use of green energy, trying to cut the use of reduce the use of fossil fuels, and all these things are quite important. And also, we've also seen how African leaders have at various organizations at various places talk about the future, talk about climate change, talk about how the world, the pollution of the earth is affecting the third world. In fact, of recent, some countries they went to the ICJ, International Criminal of Justice, stating that they need countries like America, Russia, all the big countries, the G20s, to pump in more money into clean energy because of the danger all these big countries have been able to create and put into create for countries that are closer to the ocean, to the oceanic countries. And we've seen how people are talking about all these things. Why are all these things so important? Yes, we need to start answering them one by one. For example, countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa have committed to ambitious renewable energy targets. There's also growing interest in sustainable agricultural practice that not only improve for food security but also help conserve the environment. Environmental conservation has become a thing. ESG investing is crucial in unlocking Africa's potential, and in this sector, let's break it down into probably three: renewable energy in Africa.
The numbers don't lie. In 2022 alone, Africa attracted nearly $20 billion in ESG-focused investments, particularly in renewable energy and sustainable agriculture, from the likes of solar farms in Morocco to agroforestry initiatives in Kenya. ESG is actually creating a ripple effect across industries. Now, talking about renewable energy, before we go ahead, I would like to, ask a question. I would want to ask our listeners, but I want Mubarak to answer first. What is the most sustainable thing you've done this week, Mubarak?
Well, I think the most sustainable thing I did this week was because I volunteer for a particular organization. We had to clean a market to ensure that there can be a free flow of water. You know how flooding has been a hot conversation in the last few months, and also the weather in Nigeria did not do justice to the people. So many people had to leave their areas to move to upland areas just because of the fact that a lot of people are not paying attention to the damage that is being caused by indiscriminate dumping of refuse, indiscriminate dumping of plastics, and I think that can be the most sustainable thing I've done this week. How about you?
Okay, yeah. So for me, the most sustainable thing I'll say I did this week is that I kept my trash until I found the trash can. I didn't just litter it anywhere. So our listeners would like to hear from you. Please tag us so we can give you a shout out. Would like to hear from you. What is the most sustainable thing that you've done this week? Now, diving into renewable energy, Africa as a continent holds unique human and natural capital for sustainable investment. We've been talking about how the world's youngest population can be found in Africa, with a median age of 19 years compared to 30 for Latin America, 31 for Asia, and 42 for Europe. By 2050, Africa's population will almost double. So we are talking about 1.4 billion inhabitants to nearly 2.4 billion. That's more than half of the world's population. This is why sustainable investments are actually essential for both Africa's economic, social, and environmental development. So despite this growing population, Africa is poised at a crossroad of enormous challenges, of course, as well as opportunity. Looking at the environmental aspects, Africa is home to 17% of the world's forests, which is critical for combating climate change. But that also means that Africa is highly vulnerable to environmental degradation. And looking at the social aspect, where we said we have, a youthful population, that means there's urgent need for us to invest in jobs, education, and healthcare. And the governance aspect, as Mubarak had mentioned earlier, strong governance and policies will always attract investors and ensure sustainable growth. Did you know that countries with high ESG scores receive up to 20% and more of foreign direct investment? Okay, moving back to the renewable energy sector, like Mubarak had mentioned earlier, we have seen the proliferation of renewable investments in Africa because of our unique climate characteristics. You've seen the usage of solar. The usage of solar power, hydropower has really gone wide. Yes, has gone wide. I remember I was speaking to a friend a couple of years ago. He was working with a company that provides solar solutions to marginalized communities, to rural communities basically. So they use solar powers to cook, to charge their phones. They also use the solar powers there's a rechargeable fan, rechargeable electrical lamp, and the likes. So what this company was doing is that they identified communities and individuals that needed these solutions, and they gave it to them at a discounted rate, even at a rate of them getting to pay later and the likes. And you could see the guy was supposed to be their sales manager, and he was telling me of how people actually appreciated the investment in the rural communities. Now imagine the population of rural communities in Africa. So imagine the amount of investment that company has made and the target population that person is actually catering for, and imagine the return on investment for that person. So renewable energy in Africa is actually sustainable, and I feel like it is something that can work. I mean, we have the climate already.
Yeah, talking about climate, well, I have to be honest, renewable energy in Africa has seen significant growth, and it has presented a promising future for people who are planning to invest in that sector. Although it also has its own challenges, and but Africa has an abundance of renewable energy resources such as solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and biomass. In fact, Africa is known for its abundant sunlight, particularly in countries near the equator. Solar energy has now become one of the most popular renewable energy sources across the continent. You made mention of a particular friend who is a sales guy for a solar energy company. I mean, I have to say it at this point that looking at the way electricity has gone so bad for those that are not on band A in Nigeria, I mean, all thanks to solar energy, some of us have decided to at least go hybrid with electricity. I mean, we are dependent a bit on the national grid of the country, and we've also tried and created our own alternative source of energy, because we have to power our gadgets, we have to power our phones, we have to, we just have to stay alive while the national grid is, going back and forth. In fact, talking about the national grid in Nigeria has collapsed more than 7 times this year. I mean, do you know how bad that can be. And but all thanks to the abundant resources we have. Sun and sunlight has never been a problem in Africa. So solar energy has great potential because countries such as South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, and Tunisia, they've made substantial investment in large-scale solar plants. I mean, the Desert Power Initiative and the Nur Uzat Solar Complex in Morocco, they are large examples of solar power installations. Also, we've been seeing off-grid solutions like the one you mentioned in the villages. Off-grids are now like a big thing in villages and rural areas where solar energy is being harnessed for off-grid solutions, especially where the traditional grid infrastructure is either non-existent or unreliable. And this has spurred growth of decentralized energy system. We now have solar home, we have mini grids for factories. We have, so many people have been trying to, cut themselves away from fossil fuel. Apart from the fact that fossil fuel is bad for the climate, for the environment, apart from the fact that it is bad for the environment, it is also expensive. So companies are now trying to cut cost of running, cost of fueling their own or powering electricity. So many of them have decided to, go through the alternative energy source. Another renewable energy source that is not being talked about in this part of the continent is the wind power. Although Africa has vast potential for wind energy, particularly in regions such as north of Africa and some part of South Africa, but we have projects such as the Lake Turkana, a wind power project in Kenya, and that's the largest wind power energy generator in Africa. With a capacity of 310 megawatts. Also, we've seen countries like Egypt, Morocco, who have invested heavily in wind energy and made a significant progress towards utilizing wind as a reliable energy source. Still talking about renewable energy, well, the hydropower. For those that do not know, Nigeria is heavily dependent on hydropower because of the fact that we have abundant water resources. In fact, Nigeria, most countries in the southern part of Africa, they are blessed with water resources. People, because of the presence of River Nile, River Congo, Zambezi, all these rivers are providing opportunity, and the continent has the potential to generate power of up to 100,000 megawatts through hydropower alone. And yet, we've not even gotten there. It still feels far-fetched, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm taking me back to the example you mentioned of Lake Turkana wind power in Kenya. Did you know that that project alone supplies nearly 15% of the whole of Kenya's electricity needs? And this has helped to reduce significantly carbon emissions and fossil fuel dependence. Also, the South Africa's Green Bonds is a Johannesburg stock exchange that helps to raise funds for renewable energy and water resource projects in South Africa. There's also the Great Green Wall Initiative spanning across 11 African countries. This project aims to combat desertification by creating a vast forested belt to restore degraded landscapes. Now, it's quite interesting when we talk about renewable energy because personally, I feel like we have the resources already to generate the power. Yes, the sunlight is available, the wind is available, the sunlight for solar, right, is available, the wind is available, the hydro, of course, some parts of Africa experiences droughts and the rest, but water is not a problem in a huge part of Africa. And I believe that since these resources are available, it is quite beneficial to use resources that are already available, in generating income or basically for investment. And that leads us to another interesting part of ESG, which is the social impact. Yes, social impact.
Before we move to social impact, I know the question on the minds of so many listeners would be, if we are pushing for Africa's growth on renewable energy? What would happen to countries like Nigeria, that every producers of oil, which is like the basic company of fossil fuels in the continent? What would happen to countries like Nigeria, and also countries whose major export is oil in across the globe? Well, I think at this point we need to also mention that while the world has shifted away from reliance and dependence on fuel, I mean, countries like Nigeria needs to start thinking outside the box and use alternative source of income. I mean, even though Nigeria has also tried to do that, because in terms of internally generated revenue, yes, Nigeria generated more. So countries like Nigeria that were once heavily dependent on oil production have also started moving away from reliance and building their country, or building the whole system on oil production. So Nigeria is also trying to move away from that, and that is a clue for you as an investor that if you probably have an investment in the oil sector, this might be the appropriate time to start looking inward and looking outside the oil sector, because a lot of people are trying their best to cut away from oil, not only because of the safety of people, not only because of the safety of the climate, but because of how expensive it is to use diesel, petrol, and every other resources that is being derived from oil, if you understand what I'm saying. So we can move straight to the social aspect of the ESG, which is quite the interesting part.
Yes, absolutely interesting. Now, we mentioned earlier that ESG is basically a ripple effect kind of investment, and that is where the social impact comes in. When it comes to renewable energy, we know that everybody needs energy at some point to produce, or basically we need energy. Even as humans, we run on energy basically. So providing access to renewable energy, sustainable energy, is a way of helping developing parts of Africa get access to this energy. We need electricity to work. There's no electricity, so we use solar. That means anybody can have access to it, especially since it is becoming affordable. And that's where the social impact comes in. Social inclusion is just thinking about everybody generally when you are coming up with solutions, making sure that it is affordable to every sect and every sector, whether you are a middle class, or you are a lower class, or you are even living below the poverty standard. The social inclusion is just putting everybody in mind. Now, this renewable energy, as we've mentioned earlier, has not just only put everybody in mind by bringing access to individuals living in developing communities, which are actually a large population. So even if you are catering to that sector, you are actually getting return on your investment. It has also helped in job creations for a lot of people working in these sectors. It has helped in investment in healthcare, in poverty alleviation, in education, funding of free treatment, disease control, and the likes. And this has also helped in increasing the human resource in Africa. It's just like you are investing in the human resource. And of course, there will always be ripple effect when you invest in humans. What do you think, Mubarak?
Yeah, truly. I think social impact investing only has two basic characteristics. One, the dual goals, the financial return and the social good. I mean, there is a way, this should be like the goal for every investors. Not just to make money. What you're making money from, is it doing good to the society? That is one thing social impact investment has that so many other businesses do not think about. Whenever you're investing, you should think about the social good as well as the financial return. And also, social impact investing has measurable impact. Impact investors place strong emphasis on measuring the outcomes of their investment, and this might include metrics such as the number of people people lifted out of poverty, the reduction of carbon emission, the improvement in education, or probably access to clean energy. Also, it also has a targeted sectors. Impact investing often focuses on sectors that can create substantial positive social outcomes, including affordable housing, sustainable agriculture, financial inclusion, like you mentioned, renewable energy, healthcare. Yes, healthcare. That is another social impact investment that a lot of people have overlooked in the past. Now, talking about another characteristics that should be mentioned is the risk-return profile of social impact investment. Well, this involves varying degree of financial risk, but investors are often willing to accept lower returns compared to traditional investment, and this is what makes social impact investment different from traditional investment. You know that, oh yes, you're probably not seeing X hundred of your investment, but there's this particular confidence and there's this particular joy you get from knowing fully well that, oh yes, your investment or your business is not only giving you profit, it's also creating happiness for people. I mean, there's this joy that you get from helping people. I don't know, probably whenever you do things out of your volition or you do something, even if you're not getting any return from it, you get to be happy. I get to be happy, but I don't know for others. How about you?
Of course, it's just like you're getting the conscious feeling of doing good. Basically, that feeling that comes with, you've done something good, you've helped humanity. It's not something that can be bought. No matter the amount of profit you make from it, it's just something that is inbuilt. And basically, investment in people, basically investment in people has always proven to turn out to be good, because like we said, you are also making profits, also creating opportunities for people to do good as well, and that way, the good is spreading basically. And when it comes to social impact investment, so there are two ways about social impact investment. You could invest as an individual. For example, you could decide to have scholarship opportunities for women and children in your communities, or you could try to provide access to some kind of resources that people might need for poverty alleviation or for education. You could decide to want to help in the aspect of healthcare, bringing affordable healthcare to people. And that is, talking about healthcare, I think that is the solution health financing is trying to cater to. Health insurance, for example, in Nigeria is the way it works is based on what you earn. You get to pay, a little stipend out of what you earn, and whether you are poor and rich, it's just sharing based on you earn, sharing your taxes, healthcare taxes based on you earn. And whenever you fall sick, regardless of how much you pay monthly as per healthcare tax, you are free to access any level of healthcare. So this is like collecting from the rich and using to assist the poor, so that everybody can enjoy healthcare services at its best. So like I was saying, the investment in social impact could come in two ways. You could invest as an investor, as an individual rather, or as an institution. You see a lot of corporate social responsibilities where institutions or foundations, organizations try to have a project, a non-profit project that caters to some social problems. I was at a particular E3 a couple of weeks ago, and I saw an advertisement where they are telling us that for everything we buy, I think $1 is going back to children in the north, trying to provide accessible water to children in the north. These are corporate social responsibilities, and they are actually creating impact in the society.
Well, you've really said it all on social investment, but the question would be, the question on the lips of people would be, what are the benefits of social impact investing? Well, I think I should mention the positive social outcome. The primary benefit is the ability to create measurable positive social and environmental impact. I mean, impact that address major global challenges such as inequality, climate change, access to education, access to water, access to basic education, access to health facilities. There are still so many places in Nigeria where students still sit on the bare floor before they can attend classes. Not even mentioning the fact that the out of school children rate in Nigeria is on the rise. Over 20 million students are out of school. Imagine investing in education whereby you can make it affordable, and yet you can still derive joy. You're making your profit, and at the same time you are picking students away out of the slums and putting them into the classroom. Also, it is attractive for financial returns. There are ways you pitch your businesses. Whenever you're pitching businesses, first thing they want to know is how does this affect the people? If you are investing in any social impact business related, it is easy for you to get grants. It is easy for you to get funding. It is easy for companies to want to partner with you. Also, it is easy for diversification. Impact investing provides investors with the opportunity to diversify their portfolios by adding investment in sectors that are not only socially benefitable or beneficial, but also economically viable. Also, it also aligns with values. Well, I think we need to always mention values, because one of the major challenge that has deteriorated or retarded the growth of income in Africa is lack of values. Many Africans they are so focused on profits that they let go of values, which in turn leads to cheating or disagreement, or one party feeling disgruntled. So value is also a top thing in social impact investment.
All right, Mubarak, thank you for breaking that down so explicitly. We've now seen that social impact investing is a powerful tool for addressing global challenges, and we are addressing global challenges as well as providing financial returns for investments. It's also a trend towards responsible investment where both financial returns and positive societal impact are considered in decision-making process. As this field matures, we are likely to see more innovations and more technical results in investment models for social inclusion. And that moves us to the last part of ESG, which is governance. For me, I personally believe that nothing runs behind policy. Policy is the game changer. The policy and the systemic processes of a place, of a country now would always tell in how investments are being done and how basically things are being run in the country. And that leads us to governance. Strong governance will always attract investors and will also ensure sustainable growth. The governance structure of a particular place is what will bring the ethics into the business practice. And this is a very crucial aspect because we've been talking about sensitive issues when it comes to environment, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to people. It is very crucial to ensure that there's transparency in the operations, and that's where the governance comes in. So Mubarak, what is the ethical and accountability standpoint of Africa as it is?
Well, the accountability standpoint of Africa is quite dicey. Because of the fact that I might be limited in scope of how some certain African countries do their thing, but I would not want to make a generalization based on those I know. But you would know that accountability and transparency is really a big deal in some part of the continent, and it's quite scary that a lot of people find it difficult to invest or to partner with individuals, organizations, or country that are not accountable. that are not accountable. So I feel like Africa, if we intend to grow and we intend to do better, we need to increase our transparency. We need to increase our transparency, and we need to be accountable.
Yeah, and that's where structures like the African peer review mechanism comes in. This is a body that evaluates governance among African Union member states to encourage accountability. The African peer review mechanism is just one of the likes of systems that have been put in place to ensure that there are processes in place. Of course, we've always known that policy formulation is not an African problem. In fact, there is policy and there are policies and there are enough policies. The main issue is implementation and sustainability. Implementing these policies is where the problem lies, and that is where mechanisms like the African peer review mechanism comes in place. They are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that processes for every African Union member state, processes when it comes to business and social impact, processes are being managed clearly, and there's no form of bias in place.
For an average listener, the question would be why does or how does the governance in any African country or in the country of my choice, how does it affect my business? I think I need to tell you that investing in any business, governance has a profound impact on both decision-making process of the investors and the performance of the investment. And here's how governance affects your investment, in case you don't know. Corporate accountability and transparency. I mean, good governance ensure that companies are accountable to their shareholders, their stakeholders, promoting transparency and making sure that financial reporting and decision making are easy to do. Also, companies with strong governance structures are more likely to disclose accurate and reliable ESG data. For example, if a company regularly reports on its environmental impact, employee relations, and board diversity, I mean, it is easy for you to make decisions that, you want to invest in this particular company. Okay, let me cite an instance. Imagine Awa and another person, they have a business and they are pitching to me, the investor. Now, Awa's business has valid data on regular reports on environmental impact, employee relation, board diversity, and the other business does not have all these things. It is easier for me to make a decision on which business to invest on and which not to invest on. Also, governance affects your risk management and long-term performance. Strong governance play a key role in identifying, managing, and mitigating risk. And whenever we are talking about governance this time around, we're not only talking about the governance of a continent, we are talking about governance of the investment you want to do. What does the board oversight looks like? What does the governing body of the company looks like? What's their social responsibility looks like? What is the effective governance and stricter regulations they have? Also talking about ethical leadership and corporate culture. All these things affect investment. Also, another thing I should mention whenever we're talking about governance and investment is the shareholder rights and engagement. Governance impacts how companies engage with their shareholders and the broader public. Shareholder rights including the ability to influence key decisions such as executive compensation, mergers and acquisitions, and environmental policies. I mean, for those who are in Nigeria, you notice that in the last quarter of the year, so many banks started selling their shares. Now, this is where the governance and governance of the country matters this time around. For those that bought shares, what are the rights you are given as a shareholder? To what extent can you exercise those rights? And those are the things you factor in before making a decision. What are the governance structure of any business you want to invest in? Also, another thing that should also be talked about is the regulatory compliance and ethical standards. The laws of the land, the laws of the company, the laws of the places where you're putting your money are quite important in determining your profit. What I'm trying to say is this: if you make 1 naira, if the law of the land states that for every 1 naira you make in this location, you are to pay 50 kobo into certain places as a way of paying for your taxes, your security levies, and every other thing. 50 kobo from 15 from 1 naira, that you are left with 50 kobo. So what's your own profit going to be? Those are the things you need to know. You need to understand the regulatory compliance and the ethical standard of places you want to invest in and the businesses you want to invest in. And also, governance is integral in any, whether ESG investment or traditional investment. It directly influences how your investment is being managed, the risk associated to it, the sustainable values, and how stakeholders are being engaged. I mean, good governance practice help ensure that companies are accountable, transparent, and committed to ethical business practices.
Wow, Barak, that's impressive. But I have a question for you and our listeners. You had $10 million now to invest in an ESG project. Which sector would you pick? Renewable energy, healthcare, education. Which sector would you pick?
Because of the fact that I like to diversify portfolios, I'll be looking forward to putting about 60% of that money into two sectors: the health sector and the renewable energy. I mean, looking at the growth in those two sectors, you realize that one, you're not only going to get you're not going to get a good ROI on that particular investment, but you also get conviction and satisfaction that you've not only done well for yourself, you've not only done well for the people, you've not only done make profit, you've also been able to create to put smiles on the faces of so many people. So for me, 60% of that investment would go into renewable energy and health sector. Then I can diversify the remaining 40% into other sectors like agriculture. And agriculture, don't get me wrong, agriculture is also a good sector to invest in, most especially in Africa. If you can do it on a large scale and you can make sure that it's properly monitored, agriculture is a good investment. I mean, feeding people, if either feeds the nation, controls the nation. That's just the way it is. So if you invest in agriculture, it's not a bad investment for me. I can tell you that for free. But for me, I would like to based on numbers, I would like to do based on numbers, I would like to do the health sector and the renewable energy sector.
Okay, that's great. I would like to hear from our listeners as well. Which of the sectors would you be investing in? And that leads us to another interesting part of the episode, which is the challenges and opportunities. I mean, if you're like Mubarak that wants to invest in healthcare, that wants to invest in renewable energy and agriculture, that's three big sectors already. You need to look out for challenges as well as opportunities that might come with it. ESG investment, sounds fantastic. I mean, this is, we've actually had a fun time discussing all of the aspects of ESG. However, there are challenges. For example, data transparency. Africa as a whole lacks data, and investors might struggle to find accurate ESG data in Africa. There's also the infrastructure gaps. Limited access to electricity or internet may hinder progress in many regions. And like Mubarak mentioned earlier, the regulatory barriers. Don't forget, if you are going to be investing in any country, it is for the good of your investment that you find out the regulatory barriers in such countries, basically. So Mubarak, there's a lot of potentials as well. I've been able to just highlight a few challenges. The potentials are quite huge too for Africa when it comes to ESG investment. For example, Africa's digital transformation, could actually go a long way in helping in ESG investments. But do you want to help us? I know AI, for example, AI-driven platforms. The AI-driven platforms are actually helping to improve healthcare delivery, especially in rural areas. Even it is helping in both renewable energy, in identifying soil types and climate changes and the likes. So, Mbak, what other challenges can you identify when it comes to ESG? ESG investment?
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned data availability and quality, and I think it's that part I would mention the greenwashing thing that happens in most businesses. Because of lack of data, greenwashing occurs when countries exaggerate and mislead investors, about the extent of their environmental or social effort. This can involve overstating the positive impact, or even overstating the impact of their product, services, or operation. Another thing I feel like it's a challenge for another challenge I can see for the ESG investment is the short-termism and long-term value. For averagely, you would realize that traditional investment and traditional financial market are often driven by short-term performance metrics, such as quarterly earning report, which can conflict the long-term nature of ESG goals. You're talking about something that is just starting. You're talking about something that would change the life of people. It is not always instant. So for people who are looking for a quick ROI on their investment, or you're looking for data that can be instant, it will take time, and this would affect investors too in making decisions. When they see that they expect slower returns and there's more volatility, companies or investors are often hesitant to invest. Also, another challenge is the complexity of assessing social and environmental impact. Measuring the social and environmental impact of investment can be difficult. What are the metrics you have to use? How can you tell people that you've been able to reduce carbon emission, or hence employee well-being, or you've been able to improve the community health? These are questions that would be hard, but you do not have data for them because you cannot show them.
Awesome, Bak. I think you'd agree with me that some investors believe that prioritizing ESG investment could actually lead to lower financial returns compared to normal traditional investment that is focused on solely profit maximization. This belief is particularly common in sectors like renewable energy, fossil fuels, and the like, where transitioning to more sustainable practices may require significant investment in new technologies and infrastructure. This perception kind of deters investors, especially those with a focus on short-term profit, like you've mentioned earlier. Okay, while ESG investment offers opportunities to align financial returns with sustainable developmental goals, it also presents several challenges. Like we've mentioned, challenges like data inconsistency, greenwashing, like Mubarak mentioned, the difficulty of measuring social impact, as well as potential conflict between financial returns or ESG objectives. And overcoming these challenges requires great transparency in corporate practices, increased regulatory clarity, and greater expertise amongst investors and companies managing ESG opportunities. All right, guys, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for listening in once again. We've had a very lovely time here today, hoping to bring more interesting conversations your way.
All right, guys, with that, we have come to the end of the episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to your friends. And also, make it a date with us on the 11th of December 2024 at the Invest Africa Group dinner. This is an opportunity for you to network, for you to leverage on the contact we have, on the number of people that will be there. If you have an idea you want to pitch, this is the best time for you to come and pitch those ideas. So many people are coming with your dollars, their money. All you need to do is go to eventbrite.com and you can secure your ticket there. Till next week, my name remains